As a woman, if you're looking to build a career in the hospitality industry, you're probably wondering, is this a good industry for me? Can I achieve leadership positions? How are women leaders in the industry today shaping the industry, the culture of the organizations that they're working in? Stay tuned as we touch upon these subjects on the Zista Podcast. Welcome to the Zista Podcast, where we invite industry leaders and academicians to answer questions that students have within a particular subject area. Today, we're focusing on women and more specifically, women leadership in the context of the hospitality industry. Joining us today is Ms. Sita Lekshmi. She has close to 2 decades of experience in the industry, has worked with fantastic brands like the Oberoi hotels, Accor, and she's currently with the Marriott Group as the General Manager of Aloft, Bengaluru, Outer Ring Road. Let's go straight into this session. Welcome to the podcast, Sita. We're delighted to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Amit. It's also my pleasure to be here today. Thank you for the invite.
I know you have a busy day and you're making time for this podcast means a great deal to us. So thank you.
You're most welcome.
Let's jump straight into the session. I thought I'd start by asking you, what really motivated you to build a career in the hospitality industry?
Okay, so the reason how I came to the industry is because of my mother. My mother has always believed in women being financially independent. Women must have a job. And I'm talking about 20 years ago when I was contemplating what to pursue. I had a couple of options like every other 12th standard student will have. And my mother said, you must do something that will give you a job immediately after your graduation. After that, you can still pursue your studies further. And she thought hospitality is a great industry especially for women, because she has friends in the industry who are housekeepers. And then she might have gotten that insight from them to understand, this is a very, very friendly career option for a girl. And she nudged me in that direction. So I went to IHM and I joined and I started studying. For me, the passion came a couple of years later, because when I started working, like every child who goes into college and after that graduates and starts the industry, I don't think we have a long-term vision as youngsters at that point of time. I was okay to see how my future unfolds in front of me. But I think working in the industry for a couple of years and seeing how rewarding it was to interact with people. And I grew. I got my first promotion after about 18 to 20 months of working. And I realized that there are rewards to this wonderful job and it is a great career option, is when the passion kicked in for me to realize that I can go a long way forward. Before that, I don't think I had a plan or a career graph that I tell youngsters now that have a vision maybe 5 years ahead, but I did not have it when I was younger, 20. But by 23, I think I knew where I wanted to be. So it took those first couple of years. And I had a couple of mentors who always told me, invest your first 5 years. First 5 years is an investment in the industry. And then comes the real growth and real reward. And it's absolutely true.
So nice to hear that. I'm so happy you found your passion. It's wonderful that you stayed in the industry. You not only stayed, you steadily gone up the ranks. And today you're a general manager at Aloft, Bengaluru. And I wanted to ask you, what really motivated you to persevere through the years? I'm sure you must have gone through ups and downs, times when you may be feeling low, but you kept moving on. And you've scaled heights in terms of leadership positions. So what really kept you going?
So, like I said, my mother raised us in a way. I have a sister, we're 2 girls. She raised us with no option of not having a job. She has always taught us. She's a single mom. I lost my dad when we were very young, and my mother was teaching. And she always believed that if she was unemployed, our life would have been tougher. Hence, from her own life lesson, she taught both of us girls that you need to always have a job. So not working was not an option. And then I went into hospitality and I liked the industry. Hence, I stayed on. So I knew I always have to work. And then in me, I have something about me that I want to do something and then do it well. So I'm quite driven that way. It is a little obsession. I also say it's a gift and a curse because some days it doesn't let you sleep, but mostly it's a gift more than a curse. But then what happened in the industry is that I got to experience various variety of departments, which I was very fortunate because I started with front office, then I moved to food and beverage, then I moved to sales and marketing. I also worked with a lot of hotels which were pre-opening and then opening experience. I was never bored. So that kept me going because I don't think I ever hit a place where I felt, oh, I'm stagnated or, I'm sitting doing nothing, because I always found something new to do. Because sometimes what happens in our industry is if you don't find something challenging for yourself to do, it can get a little monotonous. And I think that's with any industry, me banking, IT, retail, you need to find yourself projects to keep you engaged. And seeing them happen gives you a lot of motivation to go forward to the next role. I think that's what kept me going. And that gave me a lot of resilience. There is also another reason why I wanted to grow. I have a son, and I always wanted him to say that my mother is working and she is so and so, not just my father. So that was a great motivation for me to, there was a quote that I read somewhere that I can't quit because I know who's watching. So I have to do this for myself and for my son as well.
That's amazing. It's so nice for you to share that. There are a couple of things that you said that, caught my ear. One was about your drive. And so often you see there's a difference between, say, an average worker and an exceptional worker. And the exceptional worker pays attention to minute details, but also has a very strong drive, a drive to achieve, a drive to excel. And if not that, at least a drive to do their job really well. And it's so nice that you had such nice projects and experiences to work with. The fact that you were part of some hotel openings, I'm sure there was a steep learning curve there. I think any hospitality professional would want in their career to be part of one hotel opening or two if they're lucky, because you get to learn so many different things.
Yes, absolutely. That's true. And in my current hotel also, in the last 2.5 years that I've been at Aloft, Bengaluru, Outer Ring Road, this hotel has gone through its own refurbishment and even opening a new lounge bar, another learning experience, So the projects are all, it's here, it's a vision, and then we execute, and that's how we learn. So learning never stops at any level.
That's amazing. I wanted to ask you, Sita, when it comes to your leadership style and your work ethic, how much of this has been influenced by, say, mentors you may have met in your life? How much of this has been influenced by your time at IHM and OCLD?
So, okay, so this is a nice question. Thank you for asking me this, because I believe that ethics and integrity are something that's part of you from your upbringing days. So it's got a lot to do with your value system. What kind of values are instilled from your school, from your parents, and then you grow up into any industry, what kind of mentors you are, who are you watching as you learn is very important. And I think I have been very fortunate that my mother, being one of the pillar of my upbringing, she has instilled a huge value system. See, she's a teacher. So, they naturally tend to have that kind of a value system. Teachers have this obsession about their children not doing something wrong, because they tell their students every day to do the right thing. And then they come home and say, you can't do it wrong because I tell my students this. So that part of it has been there from a very young age. The foundation was set right. But I have been very fortunate to have great teachers in IHM and in OCLD, the faculty. You see any company, be it Marriott Hotels or any organization, it's in the value system to have high integrity. In fact, Marriott as a company has 5 core values, and the 5th one is acting with integrity. But again, there is only a limited amount that papers can tell you. You learn from experience, you learn by watching. So I have the responsibility to conduct myself in a way so that I know that my team's not going to deviate from that right thing to do path. And like I said, my mentors, a lot of general managers that I've worked with and a lot of department heads that I worked with, I have been very fortunate that they were all very, very clear about what's right, what's wrong, very black and white, no gray areas. And that has helped me become the person that I am today, that I operate with no gray area. So it's huge from IHM to OCLD to every single organization that I've worked with, high integrity. And we have been following that for a very long time. And I am very happy to say, even in my current organization, integrity is something that cannot be taken lightly.
It's amazing that you had the right environment to grow up in, but you also were egged on by the people that you met in your life, the experiences that you had. You're working in a great organization right now, and I can totally understand that as a leader, you need to really live and breathe the values that the brand stands for, because then that's what the team emulates. So it's so nice to hear you say that, Sita.
Thank you.
So,
I always say that the leaders don't have a choice. It's you are being observed 365 days, 24/7. Your actions, the way we walk, talk, everything is being noticed. So you have no loophole to escape, but do the right thing.
right. Makes sense. I wanted to ask you about some of the common misconceptions that might be there about working in the hospitality industry. Have you come across any common misconceptions? I know a little earlier in the conversation you talked about it's a great industry for women, but sometimes one of the conceptions is that it may not be the best industry for women. So any other, similar thoughts that you'd like to comment on?
Yeah, so I think one of the very, very common misconceptions, I get to hear this a lot from within the industry, maybe from colleges. One is that it's not very well paid. I think it's a misconception. And there is a reason to this rumor, I feel, because the significant difference between the entry level salary and the executive to mid management level salary, probably that's where this rumor comes from. But I think, like I said, when you invest your first few years in the industry, then comes the real reward in the industry. The salaries in the industry are very competitive to offer you more than a comfortable lifestyle once you start to grow in the industry. But a common misconception is that hospitality is not very well paid, which is absolutely untrue. And there is another misconception about long working hours. I think that comes from 1.5 to 2 decades ago, maybe 90s or beginning of this 2000s. Maybe it was true, but right now, that's not reality, because I am very happy to tell you that Marriott International has introduced overtime policy last year, and we pay our associates, whoever work more than 9 hours are getting paid for overtime if they are working. But the idea of overtime was not to pay them for overtime only, but also to make sure that everyone finished their work in the stipulated time. Because I do feel that quality of work can be achieved by working that 9 hours very well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be long. And especially when it comes to customer care is 24/7, 365 days. There is no doubt about it, be it hospitality or, airports or a police or a doctor. You look at any person who's supposed to be of service, you have to be available. But if you're choosing operations, then there is a chance that you may have extended hours, maybe 1 or 2 days a month. But even if you don't want that, there are so many other back-end offices, sales and marketing, purchase, there is finance, there is human resource, so many other options within hospitality itself. So I do think the long hours is a little stretched misconception. Being not so friendly for women is something that I used to hear a lot, but right now I think it's absolutely turned around. Hospitality has welcomed women with open arms, and they say that women are more empathetic leaders. So we want more women in the industry, and I think that has turned around a lot. But that used to be something that I used to hear a lot. And like I said, 20 years ago, when I wanted to do this, there were a couple of people who very, very humorously made comments like, so you will become a cook, because they couldn't think beyond cooking in hospitality. There's so much more to do. But that has changed, and people understand the industry much better than they used to. So yeah, and maybe a small little part of it, people think hospitality is only hotels, but it's so much more than that, because hospitality includes everything else, including, like I said, hospitals to airports to everything that is customer centric. Hospitality people are suitable and they get hired by even admin and facility management people, and even retail and banking, because there is a truth to hoteliers being well groomed and well disciplined. So this is two attributes that is very valued in any industry. So once you're in hospitality, I think you're fit to work anywhere.
You've done a fab job in dispelling some of these myths and misconceptions. And I'm happy that you touched upon the working hours and the pay grade. You know, when it comes to working hours, even other industries, whether it is IT services, banking, finance, even those people are working long hours. It's just that it's so easy to label that, okay, hospitality is an industry where you work really long hours. And I think a lot of the chains now are looking at this very seriously, focusing on employee well-being in an even larger way than they were before. It's not like they weren't doing it before. And that work-life balance is so important. You know, we keep making a big deal about work-life balance, but at the end of the day, it's about, I would like to call it more in terms of a work-life flow rather than
Correct.
balance, because there are times when the organization is flexible to let you take care of something personal that may come up. And there are times when you may need to be flexible and let go of something personal to look at something that's waiting to work. So it's about having a flow rather than a strict balance. But having said that, I think things have improved a great deal. And kudos to Marriott for instilling some of these practices like overtime. And as a leader, I'm sure when you're managing your finances and you're looking at the larger scale of operations, you're looking at, okay, if overtime seems to be increasing in a specific department or in a specific function, you know, what's happening there? Let me look a little deeper to understand, do we need to make some changes so that people
Correct.
can have more regular working hours? So that's so interesting that you highlighted that, Sita.
I thought it was important because these are the two burning misconceptions that I always try to tell, especially when I go to students in campus recruitment. They're afraid, right? Because they have heard so much. And I recently had someone who was 27-year-old, a lady who wanted a job in the industry. And then she had an option whether to join a hotel or something else. And then she called me and she thinks of me as a mentor. So she called me and she said, I'm really scared to join the industry because I think there is long working hours. And I told her the truth about what she'll get here and what she's going to get there and where long-term career is possible. And then she took the right call for herself. So it is very nice to talk to people and break this myth. And I'm very happy for this question that
Yeah,
you
in
asked.
fact, Sita, there's one more really interesting aspect that you highlighted, that hospitality is not just about hotels. It's about creating a fantastic guest experience, no matter which industry. And in that context, there's a whole host of service industries where hoteliers and hospitality graduates are actually very employable because they bring those unique skills to the table about how you can put the customer at the center of that interaction, how you can really treat them with care and respect and empathy, as you mentioned.
Correct. Yeah. Oh, that brings me to one more myth. This
Sure.
used to be there from the time I was a student that AI is going to take away our jobs.
Okay.
But it's been so many years that AI has not taken our jobs away. But there was a study recently in some article I read that 86% of travelers say that they want personalized service. And as long as 86% is going to say that, AI is not going to take away our jobs. In fact, AI will only make our job more simpler and easier to do. But human interaction in hospitality is very critical. So I always tell people who say this that AI is not going to take away our jobs anytime soon. So nothing to worry.
Thank you for adding that. Okay, Sita, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the unique challenges that women face, especially when they are stepping into leadership roles in this industry?
Okay. So so for me, since I have been looking at the journey of women in workforce, we have seen the fight for equal pay. We have seen the fight for you know, benefits, and we have seen the glass ceiling. Now, glass ceiling has also become a little old story because we have managed to shatter it somehow. And we have come a long way and proven that gender does not play a role when it comes to leadership. And I think that is something that people should get in their minds very strongly when it comes to leadership, because the world is not male oriented anymore like how it used to be in the 80s and 90s. Today, I was having a conversation with two of my colleagues about Sudha Murthy of Infosys, and how when she was in engineering college, she was the only student in the entire college, and there were no ladies toilet there. And she addressed this issue with the teachers, and they couldn't do anything for one student. And I said, people like Sudha Murthy has paved way for so many women to enter workforce. And where we have come in the last 40 years since then is amazing. And we are only going to go above and beyond this, into leadership, because I do realize, and I know that a lot of women are talking about how gender is not a talk or a necessary thing to talk about when it comes to selecting a leader. Now, I feel where women get stuck a little is the period when they are having small children, when in their pregnancy and they get into the family way. It's a time when they feel a little stumbled, career-wise. And that is something, as an industry or any company for that matter, we need to look at a little more sensitively.
Sure.
And take care of their needs during that period. Because even now, I see a lot of girls who say that I'm going to have a family and so I will take a break, and they think that's okay. While I think that is okay if they wish to take a break, I want people to know that the industry is very welcoming and it is going to have those flexible hours, the mandatory maternity leave, paternity leave, all those benefits are there for people who would like to utilize them. I think that's one of the challenges that stands between women, where they take a little step back and then come back on track. And then I think for our company, Marriott International, we're also looking at a lot of projects to bring women in the forefront and also into leadership, because we do offer flexible working hours if you are a nursing mother. And then we also tell you that if you need something to voice your opinion and have options taken from us as to what is doable for you, and then flexible working hours, that is something that we do. And recently, the company has also started a project, Shakti, for young girls, underprivileged students, who we enroll them into this open university graduation program and employ them and continue their studies. Projects like this create loyalty to the company, because we are not only helping these students to get a job, but also educate them to make sure that they go a long way. There is a lot of hand-holding by the organization. So we understand where the challenges lie, but the point is to do something about it. And I think as an organization, we are doing a lot, but there's a lot more to be done.
Oh, true. And, I think the picture is really bright and positive right now in terms of what we see today. It's a lot better than the situation that was there, maybe 2, perhaps 3 decades earlier. I think companies are also a lot more sensitive to the needs and requirements. And maybe I'm a little biased when I say this, but I think ladies actually make better leaders because they have a higher emotional quotient more often than not. And that element of compassion and empathy is so important. So you still have that level of business acumen, strategy, and all those business skills that you require. But women additionally have a lot of empathy and compassion, which sometimes it doesn't come as easily to male leaders. So I think in that sense, women actually make better leaders. As I said, I'm
completely
biased.
agree with you. I think women have higher EQ. Even take away leadership, think about a home where father and mother and children are there,
Right.
and think of it as from a management perspective. The kids go to the mother for support to go to the father, right? So that's because the awareness as a parent and the connection to that child or staff is more. So I do agree with you. And I don't think even if I were a man, I would have said the same thing.
Okay. That's so nice to hear that. Okay, Sita, I wanted to ask you, how are women leaders influencing the culture within hospitality organizations? I mean, it's so nice to see not just GMs, but also departmental heads being ladies in some cases. How are they influencing the culture?
So that's a very nice question. I think today's conflict of growing in the industry is more internal than external. Because from an organization's perspective, and take Marriott or any other hospitality chain, the organization wants to grow in diversity and inclusion, right? They want to grow the percentage of working women force. The conflict of what to do is internal for each woman leader in their own, what they want to do. So how leaders in the industry currently are influencing, one is by being their authentic self, because I think everybody who has grown to a certain level has proven it with their grit and resilience. So them being their own self is itself a great motivation and inspiration for others who are watching. I do tell my departmental heads and managers who are women, even one day, that when you come into work, you need to know that 47 girls are looking at you for inspiration. And you need to walk that path where you know you are inspiring somebody or you are demotivating somebody. So it's up to you how you conduct yourself. And I think a lot of female leaders are very aware of this fact that they are being noticed and they are being observed. And a lot of women come up to me personally. I'll tell you my story. Today, I was in one of my top clients' office. I was having a meeting, very critical meeting, for which I postponed our session, right?
Right.
So I went after the meeting, I thanked them, I saw the office around, I was coming off. I went to the washroom and I was in front of the mirror, standing there washing my hands. And there is this girl, very young girl in the early 20s, comes out to me and says, hi. I say, hi. And she says, my name is so-and-so. And she pulls out a red rose from her bag and she gave it to me. And I said, thank you so much, but why? So she said, because you're looking so lovely, so I wanted to give you this. I said, do you always carry flowers in your bag? So she said, no, sometimes, but I had this, and when I saw you, I thought I should give it to you. You know, it meant a lot to me. And right now, that flower is right over there. Shrikant is wearing it, my director of sales, and I put it in his pocket.
Okay.
And I told her, thank you so much. And I told her my name. I told her, come to Aloft sometime. But small thing, right? She's in her early 20s. She's looking at a little older woman who's also a professional, who's visited her office. And that is 1% of inspiration. Maybe it's inspiration to be well-groomed. It is okay. But you are inspiring young girls every minute. And once we have that awareness, we can't stop. It's like, you know who's watching. It's not just our children. This is a whole new generation of women who are watching us. And I think that thought alone is the biggest driving factor.
Amazing. So leading by example is so important. And I think you really walk the talk. I've met you on a couple of occasions and I've always seen you always well-groomed and dressed to the T. So absolutely.
Thank you.
As part and parcel of the role that you're in, the industry that you're in. But I think it's also about setting acting as a role model for the younger generation. And sometimes these really random acts of kindness have a way of touching our heart. And I'm so happy you shared this incident, Sita.
Yeah, it just happened just 3 hours ago. So it's very fresh in my mind and I thought I'll share.
What advice would you give young women, women who are aspiring to make a mark and perhaps even reach a management and executive level position in the hospitality industry?
So the first thing I want to say to all the young women is that the journey may seem very daunting in the beginning of your career because you are looking at a huge mountain peak and that's your aspiration and you want to get there. But do not forget that it is one step at a time. You are not expected to take a huge leap. It's one step at a time, one day at a time, and you are going to get there. But in that journey, don't forget to be kind to yourself. And being vulnerable is valued a lot more than it used to be before. And we are living in a world where people want to be collaborative, people want to be supportive. So I think people who are entering the workforce at this point of time, they are entering a place where people operate with a lot of empathy naturally. People want to be collaborative and supportive. So don't forget to be kind to yourself, because what happens with young women, especially if they come from a small town, that they don't forgive themselves if they fail. They want to prove themselves so hard that the journey will become tough eventually. So the good thing to do is, yes, nobody said that it's going to be easy, but take one day at a time, be kind to yourself, and dismiss the label. Don't think of yourself as a woman when you're working. Think of yourself as a designation when you're working, because nothing is personal. If somebody is going to correct you about something, they are not correcting the person, they are correcting the designation. And if that happens, then your emotional connection to the job remains, but your ability to be resilient increases, because you're not taking things personally. You're understanding that the feedback or a constructive criticism is coming towards the designation. So we must learn to separate the two entities. You go home as you, be vulnerable, but when you're at work, be the designation. And it's easier said than done, but it's a practice. It's like any exercise. It's like a dance that you get good at over a period of time. Yes, I think that's the main thing I need to say to everybody who's watching.
Fantastic. There's something that you said which I think has wide applicability. It's not just limited to women. I would say it's not just limited to hospitality. I would really peg this as a pearl of wisdom, where you said, look at things objectively. If you get constructive criticism, understand it's for the output or that particular job or that role you're performing. It's not for you. So often we tend to be emotionally attached to what we are doing, or maybe emotionally attached to the output we've created. I think that happens very often in creative industries as well. So if you're a creative person, you're making a design, you make a poster or a social media post, and someone criticizes, you're like, you don't like it.
Yeah.
So that happens. And what you need to realize is that if there's any criticism coming, it's not criticism aimed at you. It's for that particular output or that job. So learning to take it in your stride is so important. And I think you highlighted that very, very well. So thank you for bringing it up, Sita.
No problem. My pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure hosting you on the podcast, Sita. I really enjoyed our conversation. I enjoyed the, candid moments that you shared, the incidents that you shared from your life and your experience. And more importantly, the pearls of wisdom that you shared with ladies who are looking to make a mark in the hospitality industry. A lot of your advice, I would say, also is applicable to any hospitality aspirant, not just ladies, even men, But I'm really happy that we had this discussion, and, I really enjoyed talking to you today.
Thank you so much, Amit. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it was absolutely a pleasure to meet you online as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed my interaction with Miss Sita Lekshmi. She shared some practical advice, she shattered some misconceptions, and made it abundantly clear that women have a bright future in the industry. With grit, resilience, compassion, and empathy, women leaders are really shaping the industry to be a better place for everyone. If you like this session, subscribe to our channel on YouTube to keep getting content like this. Follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Our handle is the Zista Podcast. This is your host, Amit Ahuja, signing out. Till we meet again, stay curious.